What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Trans Heroes channel. I'm Luca. You guys met me last week. I'm here today to talk about my coming out, I guess. And everybody says that everybody's coming out experience is different, and I've personally found that to be true because I've talked to people who are trans, non-binary and gay and bi and lesbian, and it's different based on who you're telling, if you're telling everybody at once, or if you're telling different people at different times, or if you're not telling certain people, and it's just all of them are different. So this is mine. I guess I should start out with my best friend. I told her first. I think I mentioned that in the last video. We were FaceTiming and I just said, hey, I have something to tell you, and she was like, what? And I told her, and she was like, okay, sweet, what's your name, pronouns, all good, okay. And that was great because I was really scared, not because I thought she wouldn't accept me, but it was just the first person I was telling, and I had really known anybody else who was transgender, so I didn't really get to see people's reactions to it at all, because I didn't really know much about being transgender. I didn't know much about transgender people. I never talked to anybody else really, so I was really nervous, and it made me feel a lot better when she was like, all right, cool, whatever, that's chill, that's just another thing about you, you're still my best friend. So after I told her, the next person I told was my mother, which the way I told her was a little weird because it was on National Coming Out Day, and I was sitting there talking to her, and I was like, hey, it's National Coming Out Day, and she was like, oh, are you gonna come out? And I was like, yeah, I'm bi. And at first she was obviously surprised. She was like, you love boys? And I was like, yeah, I do love boys, but I like girls too. And she obviously was shocked and not really sure how to react. So I think about a week later or 2 weeks, I was going to Disneyland. So we were driving there. So we were up really early in the morning, and this was not with my mom, it was with my dad. And it was probably 2 in the morning. We were driving there. I was texting, and I just texted this long paragraph of listen, this is, I'm bi, and when I get back I want to go and buy some guy clothes. And she was like, all right, we'll talk about this when you get home. And when I got home, she was like, all right, if you want to be a butch lesbian or whatever, that's fine, because she didn't really understand that being bisexual was an actual sexuality. She just saw it as kind of an experiment thing, a stepping stone towards coming out as gay or lesbian. And so she was like, all right, if you want to be a butch lesbian, that's fine. And I kept making about the clothes, and that was an issue. So we were out one night and we went to American Eagle, and I was like, can I get some American Eagle boxers? And she was like, oh yeah, I used to love to wear boxers when I was younger, when I'd sleep, they're super comfortable. And I was like, come on, that's not why I'm getting them. And so it kind of caused a little argument, and we left, and then I eventually came back and I got the boxers. And then it started this long talk of, I think I'm a boy, I'm transgender, and obviously she was she was upset and was like, well, I don't want you transitioning while you're in school, because she was afraid of me getting bullied. She was afraid that people were going to treat me, they were going to bully me. And little did she know I was getting bullied anyways, but not for that reason. But she didn't want that for me. And so for the next, I want to say month or two, it was rough, because there would be moments where she'd be supportive. She called me she the whole time, but there are moments where she'd be supportive, and then there are moments where she'd get upset and be like, listen, you're a girl, you need to grow out of this or whatever. And that went on. And then February 5th, which my 2 years is coming up soon, I was like, listen, I'm going to school, I'm wearing my binder, I'm wearing my guy clothes, and I'm coming out to the rest of my friends, because at the time my best friend and my mom were the only two people who knew. And she was not happy about it, but I did. At the time I had long hair and was wearing it in a braid, because that's really the only thing I can do with it. And so I came out to my friends, and most of my friends' reactions were the same as my best friend, like, all right, cool, what's your name, what's your pronouns, chill. And there were some questions, but I didn't have, none of my close friends had negative reactions. Like, there were people who had negative reactions, but I expected that, and none of them were my close friends. So for about 2 months I was going to school. At first I was going by Tyler, which was a terrible name. Not to insult anyone named Tyler, but that just did not fit me at all. Eventually I changed it to Luca, and obviously I've stuck with it. That's who I am now, that's my name. And so at school I was wearing guy clothes. With my dad, at my dad's house, I was not wearing guy clothes, I was wearing a bra and girl clothes. At school I was going by Tyler, Luca, eventually when I changed it. At home, even my mom's, I was going by she and Kyla. And so in April, so 2 months after I came out to my friends, I got my hair cut. So about a month before, I talked to my mom and I was like, I need to get my hair cut, I need to get my hair cut. And she was like, fine, but I'm picking who's cutting your hair. So the guy who cut my hair, she knew. He had done my hair in the past, but he was super packed, so it took about a month to get in there. So in April, I went and got my hair cut, and it was super emotional, but my mom was videotaping while I was getting my hair cut, right? And so it was in a braid. It was like waist length. It was long hair, and he just cut off my braid. And so she was recording that, and she didn't realize it, but she was recording my face in the mirror as well. And you can see it. Maybe I'll show it in this video or a future video. You can see the biggest smile on my face, and it was just such a feeling of relief and such happiness when I got my hair cut. And my mom said that after she saw that she knew that this is who I was, that she couldn't, that she had to accept it because this is who I was. And later on she talked about how I've come out of my shell a lot. I've come out of my shell a lot since coming out, because before I used to be very timid and very quiet and very awkward, which I'm still pretty awkward, but after I came out, I'm a lot more outgoing and talking to people. I'm a lot more confident, and it's not something I realized other people would realize, but they did. And so I cut my hair, and at this point my dad still didn't know I was transgender. I hadn't told him. He was the person I was scared to tell the most. And I sent him a picture of my hair, which I told him I was cutting my hair, but I didn't tell him how short. And I sent him a picture of my hair, and he was furious. He was so mad at me, and that really hurt. Because I was so happy. I was so happy about it. Everybody was so happy for me, and then my dad was so upset. And so that eventually led to my mom calling him, I think a couple days later, and saying, hey, we need to talk about me. I'm not gonna say my birth name, but we need to talk about her. And she told him what I had told her about being trans and being bi, and he seemed okay with it. So I saw him about a week after that, and we were talking about my haircut, and he said, was your goal to look like a boy? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, why? And I said, you know why. I know you know why. I know you talked to mom. And so his initial reaction was really positive. It was like, okay, I'm gonna have questions. And I was like, that's great. I want you to ask me questions about what's going on so you can understand. And I was very happy about it. And then about a week or two later, we were sitting in the parking lot somewhere, and he said that he had done some research, which probably meant he went online and found some parents' negative reaction to their kid coming out as trans. And he said that there was something wrong with me, that I had either had to have been abused or molested, or something happened to me when I was younger that made me this way, that made me think I was a boy, and that there was something wrong with me, and that the people that were around me, I was making them uncomfortable, which isn't true at all, because the people that he said that I made uncomfortable were my aunt and my brother. And like I said, they turned out to be the most supportive people in my life. I kind of mentioned this before. And so after that, I didn't talk to him for a while. And then it was kind of just like I was around him, but we would avoid the topic of me being trans and me being a boy. And then this was coming up to the end of my summer before senior year. And I had talked to my mom somewhat about changing my name and my gender with the school. And she immediately was like, no, I don't want you to do that. Like, no. So I never talked to my dad about it. My dad didn't even know what name I was going by at school and with my mom, because at that point she had been calling me Luca and he for a while. And so she called the school without telling me. It was supposed to be a surprise. She called the school and had them change my name and my gender. And I didn't know. So my dad calls me furious, like, what is this name thing that I'm hearing about, blah, 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 what is this? I was like, I have no clue. I was upset. He's yelling at me about this. And I was like, I have no clue, let me call my mom. And I called her and she said, yeah, it was supposed to be a surprise. And so me and my dad got in an actual argument, which was crazy because I don't argue with my dad. It just never happened before. I don't stand up to my dad or anything like that. So this was the first time that I actually disagreed with him on something, and it ended up in him calling me a girl and telling me that I needed to get over this, and it ended up with me not talking to him for, I want to say, about a month, or seeing him at all. And the first time I saw him was I went to dinner with him and he invited me to a wedding, one of his friend's wedding. He was like, you want to go? And I was like, well, yeah. The main reason was because I wanted to dress up, because I had never dressed in slacks and a button-up before, and I was very excited. And after that, again, I started seeing him like every week again. But again, we just kind of fell back into the not talking about it. Like, we would go to stores and he'd buy me guy clothes, but he'd make comments about it, and we just kind of fell back into not talking about it, except for when he would make comments every once in a while. And that's pretty much how it went up until I turned 18. We never had an actual talk about it. I mean, I turned 18 a couple months ago in September, and we never really had a specific talk about it, but it was just like, he called me Luca when I was at work, and when, he introduced me to his new girlfriend as Luca. And like when we're around like her and her 5-year-old daughter, he calls me Luke and he calls me he. He tries to call me he at work because nobody at work really knows that I'm trans. And yeah, so for the most part he's trying, I think that's great. I mean, it was a long time to me. It was over a year of him being not the most supportive in that area. So I've just been trying to give him as much time as possible to accept it. I know it's hard. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. This is a long story. That's kind of where I'm at now. My dad, he tries his hardest. My mom has been supportive as all hell. She calls me Luca and calls me he, and she gets into arguments on Facebook about transgender people all the time. It's kind of funny. And then I'm moving out to New York. I mentioned that in the last video. And my aunt, my dad's sister, and my uncle and my cousin, they're all supportive. When I came out to my aunt, she was just like my best friend. It was like, that's like telling me your hair is curly. Like, it's just another fact about you. It doesn't change anything about you. You're still my family. You're just my nephew now, and I'll call you Luca, and So yeah, for the most part, everybody around me was supportive, even if it wasn't like immediate support, it was eventually. And so yeah, that was long. That was my coming out story. There isn't really anybody else in my life I have to come out to. When I meet people, as I get close to them, I tell them eventually. It's not something I come out and say like right up front. But yeah, when I become friends with people, or if I'm in a relationship, like if I'm talking to someone, I'll tell them immediately. But like friendship and stuff like that, like as we become friends, I'll tell you. But yeah, this has been my coming out story. It wouldn't be my coming out video, but my coming out story. And yeah, I'm glad I got to share it with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tune in tomorrow to see the next admin's video. And yeah, have a good day. Bye.
Here she blows.
Oh my gosh.